Well, if you live in California, I probably don't need to tell you that this last weekend was exceptionally hot, and really this heat started last Thursday. These were some of the observed temperatures yesterday. You can see much of the Sacramento Valley and San Joaquin Valley up around 110 degrees. And I hate to say it, but that heat is going to be sticking around today. We have, as you can see, the excessive heat warning still stretching basically all the way from the Oregon border down to the Mexican border. Almost the entire state of California covered in that excessive heat warning. But there is some good news on the horizon that we're going to be going over in this video. You can see a little hint of that good news based on the fact that along the coast, that excessive heat warning has started to pull back, and even into the Sacramento Valley as well, where you no longer see that heat warning in effect. But again, majority of the state's still covered in that heat alert, so that will be the main story we're talking about today. First, let's just look at where this heat is coming from in the first place. Remember, we actually started talking about this last Monday when this high pressure system you see over the west right here was just over Utah and Arizona, and then between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday last week, it just slowly started moving closer and closer to California. And then over this last weekend, it was directly overhead. And you can see it still is directly overhead. But the good news is, just based on the color, you can actually kind of see it. Where we're in that dark red color yesterday afternoon, you can see how this high pressure system is starting to weaken. We're getting into a much lighter shade of red. And that's why we're actually going to have some cooling temperatures Tuesday and especially Wednesday. We start to really see some of our high temperatures come down. And then even better news, towards the end of the week, getting into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you start to even see this troughing pattern move in. We won't get too into exactly what that means, but basically when you see lines stretching down like that, almost as a smiley face, it's certainly going to be making us smile because we're no longer going to be seeing those 115 degree temperatures. We're actually going to see possibly even some below average temperatures. So I always like to look at the below or above average temperatures because it just gives you a good idea of how abnormal your high temperatures will be for the day. For example, yesterday, with this heat wave still in full effect, you can see northern parts of Sacramento Valley 25 to 30 degrees above average. Parts of the San Joaquin Valley 25 to 30 degrees above average as well. Looks like we're already starting to see some of that onshore flow around the Bay Area. I can actually attest to that. I was up in the North Bay, and the marine layer, especially in the Marin headlands, was certainly strong throughout the weekend, which is why we actually had some slightly below average temperatures in those locations. But overall snapshot of California, if you were to just squint your eyes and look at it, majority of the state yesterday was at least 10 to 20 degrees above average temperatures. And here's where the good news comes in. It's good news and bad news. The good news is we're no longer 30 degrees above average. The bad news is we're still about 15 to 25 degrees above average in places like the northern Sacramento Valley and San Joaquin Valley, where the majority of this heat is still isolated. But as we continue to click through here, every single day we're just going to see this getting better and better. By Tuesday, we're maybe just 15 to 20 degrees above average. By Wednesday, it's maybe 10 to 15, with majority of the coast now actually looking below average. And then by the time we get into Friday and this weekend, let's hope that the state of California looks like this. It's certainly going to be great if it does. This is showing Friday afternoon. Looks like the entire state with that trough building in. Remember I said it, you can think of it looking like a smiley face because it's going to be bringing us some cooler temperatures. That's what we could be looking like on Friday, which would be a huge breath of fresh air compared to what this last weekend was, where again, these were some of the highs yesterday. Redding, Chico, Yuba City, all around 110 degrees. Sacramento, you were in the triple digits as well. Stockton and Merced, triple digits. Merced 111 right there. But again, North Bay was actually beautiful yesterday, around low 80s where I was, sunny skies. San Francisco had that strong marine layer, especially in the evening hours where it was really starting to push through. But certainly still on the hot side yesterday. So that's why I'm excited for this possible heat wave, or not heat wave, this possible cool down coming in over the next few days. So here's what the high temperatures are going to be looking like today. Again, you can't get too excited about the cool down yet because we still have that high pressure over us, and we still have the excessive heat warning over us as well. And you can see why we do still have that excessive heat warning in effect. These are the forecasted highs today. Redding, you're still 108 degrees. If you do get over 100 degrees today, which I think is likely to happen, it will be your 18th day in a row of over 100 degree temperatures. So hopefully this cool down coming later in the week will be enough to finally bring you back into the double digits, but certainly doesn't look like it's going to be happening today. Same story for Chico and Yuba City. You might be a few degrees cooler than you were yesterday, but you can see still over 105 degrees throughout Redding, Chico, Yuba City. Good news for Sacramento, you're back into the mid-90s. Stockton looks like you're back into the double digits as well. And then right around the Bay, still comfortable summer conditions, possibly even a little bit cold if you're in San Francisco, 85 in San Jose. Then let's just take a look at Tuesday just to get a better snapshot of how things are going to be changing. You can see Redding still extremely hot, but temperatures continue to drop in places like Chico, Yuba City, Sacramento. And then let's just fast forward all the way to Friday to see what's going to be happening when that trough moves in and the cool down starts to happen. Looks like Redding finally back into the double digits. That'll be breaking your almost month-long streak of triple-digit temperatures. Chico, Yuba City, Sacramento, all around high 80s to low 90s, which should be great considering the warm temperatures we had this last weekend. North Bay, you're again still comfortable, 75 to 80 degrees with some sunshine, still cool in San Francisco with that marine layer. Now, with that good news that's going to be coming in later this week, the good news isn't here yet. As you can see, we still do have dangerous heat risk. And I think this pretty much sums it up perfectly. It says, heat like this only happens a few times each year. Heat risk is high across much of the area, even for the general population. And the heat risk for the general population is especially true where you see that red color and that magenta color. That's where really doesn't matter if you're a sensitive group or whatever conditions that you are in, this heat could be a risk to basically anybody. So important things to do, things like hydrate, limit time outdoors, dress for heat, or just stay cool in any way you can think of. My go-to is actually dunking in the creek that's near my house. Great way to stay cool, especially if you do it consistently throughout the day. Now, one thing you do notice on this dangerous heat risk map is that there's this area where there's low heat risk really starting to stretch into the valley, and it actually matches up with the excessive heat warning as well. We have that excessive heat warning up here, especially over places like Redding, and then stretching through the start of the Sierras as well. But then you notice the excessive heat warning is actually gone over places like Sacramento. And that's, one thing I will say before I continue on this excessive heat warning, as of right now, should be ending tonight. So that's a good indication that we're moving in the right direction. If tomorrow morning we wake up and all of this excessive heat warning is in fact gone, that's going to be great to see because it'll be the first time California will be clear in about 4 days. Now, back to what I was saying before though, you notice how it's almost like it looks like there's a wave of cool air filling into the valley right here, just eliminating that excessive heat risk. And it turns out that's exactly what is happening. It's really due to the onshore winds that we started to see yesterday and we're going to continue to see pick up over the next few days. You just notice this is about 4 or 5 p.m. today where it should be the hottest part of the day. And you notice some of that yellow and greenish color, how it just pushes into the East Bay and even parts of the valley as well, which is why Sacramento, you're no longer in the triple digits. And that's just going to be continuing over the next few days where you see some of that extreme heat up in places like Redding, but then some of that cooler ocean air working its way in. I think a better way to view it is actually looking at the humidity. If we go into this afternoon, typically you see Much of Northern California, extremely hot, extremely dry. Relative humidity is around 5%. That will have some impacts on our wildfires throughout the day today. Still extremely warm and dry. We'll actually look at some of the wildfires going on in a second. First, I just want to show how this works. You can see that onshore flow pushing in. You think of all the air over the ocean right here. It's cool, it's moist, and then these winds just push it in there, and you see how that makes places like Sacramento or Galt nice and cool, especially in the overnight hours, and some of that cool air and moisture is able to hang out throughout the day. Now, with that being said, so that is what's really eliminating that excessive heat warning throughout the parts of the valley right there and along the coast. But again, with that being said, as I just showed, we do still have some extremely dry air into the single digits. I think there was one station I even saw that had 1% relative humidity over this last weekend. I had never seen that before. I'm hoping it was a malfunction in the station, but given the heat, I think that result might have actually been credible. So you can see still 5% relative humidity up in Northern California. Temperatures still up into the 90s, in some places up above 105 degrees. So there is still some concern when it comes to our wildfires. First, I'll go with the good news when it comes to our wildfires. There have been a few fires that I've been tracking really over the last couple of weeks. Mostly up here around Shasta, we had the Salt Fire. That did reach over 12,000 acres, but last time I checked, which is right now, the percent contained is up to 85% for the Salt Fire, so that's some good news there. The other key fires I've been following were the Lava Fire and the Tenant Fire. The Tenant Fire, you can see, did reach over 10,000 acres, but as of right now, over 95% contained, which is great to see. And then right there, the Lava Fire, that one, it actually is a pretty crazy image. If we zoom in here, you can see how this fire perimeter goes right up to, I believe that's Shasta. Somebody comment in the live chat if that's not Shasta, but I'm pretty sure that is. It says, seeing lots of names for glaciers, but not actually the mountain itself. But pretty amazing imagery right there. As you can see, the fire perimeter going right up to what almost looks like an old volcano, and I imagine it is. So let's just look at the numbers on the Lava Fire. You can see that did reach 26,000 acres, but percent contained up to 77%. So when it comes to Salt Fire, Tenant Fire, and Lava Fire, I'd say we're looking pretty good considering some of the treacherous conditions we have had recently. The two fires that I'm actively following because they're relatively new and still have large amounts of active flame and growth happening. One is the Beckworth complex. You can see Beckworth complex right there. There's where we click. That's about 86,000 acres and it's 20% contained. I was watching some of the live cams over this weekend. We had some pyrocumulonimbus clouds forming, which, if you don't know, it's basically just a good indication that you're having some extreme fire behavior. And watch as I zoom in and out here, you can actually see how intense some of the dots are right there. So you can see that is still a fire that is actively burning. I think that has the capability to become our first 100,000 acre fire of the 2021 season. So I'm certainly keeping my eye on that one. And I'm also keeping a close eye, let's see if we can find it, on the River Fire. There it is. So you can see that is another fire that you see a lot of active growth where you see those red dots. That means there's active fire in hotspots. That one is much less than the Beckworth complex. It's 4,000 acres, but that one's only 5% contained. So those are the two I will be following closely, and I might even do a full wildfire report tomorrow. But again, the good news is the conditions over the next few days should be getting better than they were over the last few days. Now, the one exception to that is down in Southern California. We do still have some critical fire weather. One thing that I always look at is the Santa Barbara area where you get the San Ynez Mountains, and it's called something It's called sundowner winds. It's basically Santa Barbara's equivalent of Santa Ana's or Diablo winds. You see these northerly winds come over the mountains, and then as they come down the lee side of the mountains, the air heats up and the winds speed up, and that's where you get some critical fire danger in places like Santa Barbara. You can see why that's going to be the case today. We're still up in the upper 90s, possibly even triple digits in some places, and it's relative humidity in the single digits. So I'm certainly going to be still looking at Southern California when it comes to fire danger. In the interior parts as well, still extremely dry and still extremely warm. So that is why the Los Angeles office did put forward a graphic showing very hot across interior of Southwest California through Monday with elevated to brief critical fire danger. Now again, critical conditions today, but we're hopefully going to be seeing some improving conditions over the next few days. Overall, some of this heat will be sticking around for Southern California a little bit longer than it will for Northern California. We can actually look at that by checking out the map. You notice where this high pressure system is, it's going to start to move south a little bit. So Southern California, you're still going to have some relatively warm temperatures over the next couple of days. You can see yesterday, Fresno, Bakersfield, both 113, was probably a beautiful day in Los Angeles, sunny and low 80s. But you can see because that high pressure system is just shifting down into Southern California, we might even have some warmer temperatures in places like Fresno and Bakersfield where it's 114, 115 today, and then Los Angeles getting up to 85. San Diego finally breaking into the low 70s. I feel like usually when we look at San Diego this time of year, it's in the low 60s because of that thick marine layer. You can see warm throughout Southern California today, which I think for the excessive heat warning, that's one of the key places that I'm going to be watching throughout the day today, because that is where some of this heat is actually intensifying based compared to what we had yesterday. Now, if we look at Tuesday, you start to see some of that cooler air work in to the northern parts of the San Joaquin Valley. Places like Fresno drop down a couple of degrees. It's kind of grasping at straws right there because you're still 112, about 20 degrees above average. Bakersfield 115 tomorrow's forecast. Los Angeles still mid 80s. Let's see where this cool down finally starts to happen. Looks like it starts to fill in on Wednesday, still above 105 degrees though. Thursday, we start to get closer to 100, and then Friday, can we break into the double digits? Looks like Fresno gets into the double digits. Bakersfield right around 101. Saturday, looks like we're right around 100 again in places like Fresno and Bakersfield. Los Angeles, looks like you're low to mid 80s throughout this entire week. So still extremely warm over the next couple of days for Southern California. That is why we still have that excessive heat warning and that critical fire danger in place. I'll be interested to see if that excessive heat warning gets lifted in Southern California tomorrow. It's supposed to be lifted at 9 p.m. tonight for much of Northern California, but I would imagine that stays intact for Southern California just based on the fact that we still have places over 110 degrees over the next couple of days before that cool down starts to come in Friday and Saturday. So just a brief overview. Again, for the forecast highs today, you can see much of the northern Sacramento Valley still above 105 degrees. We're starting to get some relief, especially along the coast and even into places like Sacramento, where that great onshore flow is bringing in some cool, moist ocean conditions. But I think the key spot to look out today is the Fresno, Bakersfield, San Joaquin Valley area, where you can see we might actually even be a couple degrees warmer than yesterday as that high pressure system shifts down to the southern parts of the state. Still expecting some highs around 115. So again, you have to take these excessive heat warnings seriously, because heat, actually you wouldn't originally guess it, but heat is one of the biggest causes of fatalities when it comes to weather. You know, it's much easier to think about things like big hurricanes or tornadoes causing the most deaths, but some studies have actually shown that heat is one of the #1 killers when it comes to weather. It's just not as graphic, so you wouldn't think of that as much, but again, when the entire state is covered in an excessive heat warning like this, certainly have to take something like that seriously. So hopefully this video is helpful. I apologize for not doing many videos recently. I've been really focusing on my research and my work at KSBW over the last couple of weeks, but now that we're getting into fire season, I want to start doing these videos daily again, because again, my last video was on the drought. There are some very dry conditions out there, so it's going to be important to stay updated over the next couple of months. Hopefully this video is helpful. Thank you very much to Trenton for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day.